Welcome back, Week 14 students. You've finally made it. We are at the final, absolutely critical stage of the project lifecycle. In today's explainer, we're going to be looking at project closure and the post-implementation review. You can really think of this phase as the essential victory lap of project management. It's where all your hard work is solidified, where loose ends are tied up, and where the actual value of your project is, well, officially recognized. All right, let's dive right in.
Now, it's been said that no one likes to take the time to close a project, and honestly, that's entirely understandable. Look, empathy goes a long way here. By the time a project reaches these final stages, project fatigue has fully set in. The budget's usually tapped out, the team is just utterly exhausted, and let's face it, organizational interest has probably already shifted to the next big shiny priority. But here's the absolutely crucial point. Skipping this formal closure phase, it's a massive mistake. If we don't officially close it out, the project never truly ends, and we completely miss out on measuring our actual success.
And actually, this brilliantly illustrates why rigorous closure matters, no matter what era you're in. Just consider the Great Pyramid of Giza. We're talking about a monumental 20-year project involving up to 200,000 workers, all constructed to this astonishing accuracy of 0.05%. Do you really think Khufu's vizier, who is essentially the project manager of the time, just walked away when that last stone was placed? Absolutely not. Monumental scale requires formal, rigorous completion to really secure a legacy. If they could manage to meticulously close out a project of that magnitude thousands of years ago, well, we can certainly manage to properly close out our modern projects today, right?
To help you master all this, our explainer today is going to follow this roadmap, which maps directly to your 5 key learning objectives for Week 14. We'll cover the importance of project closure, executing the final handover, the post-implementation review, documenting key lessons learned, and finally, communicating findings to stakeholders. Let's get to it.
Starting off with Section 1, the importance of project closure, avoiding the void. You see, when we fail to close a project properly, we kind of enter this murky void where things just fade away without ever officially crossing the finish line. And without formal closure, several really detrimental things happen. Lessons learned, they're completely lost to the ether. External vendors might actually go unpaid, which, as you can guess, opens up your organization to future legal liabilities. By failing to take the time to close, we literally cannot identify the point of true completion. And on top of that, without taking stock of what worked and what didn't, we fail to integrate vital lessons into our organization's maturity model. We essentially stop growing.
Moving right along to Section 2, executing the final handover, or closing operations.
So, let's transition from theory into the hard skills and the actual nuts and bolts of shutting down the operation properly. When closing operations, we really have to manage two distinct halves. On one side, we have administrative closure. This is all about making sure your internal house is clean, so to speak. You're updating pertinent records, archiving files, officially releasing your staff to new assignments, and capturing the history of the project. Now, on the flip side, we have contractual closure. This looks outward. It's the formal verification and sign-off that all deliverables are accepted, settling external legalities, paying off those final invoices, and formally closing out any vendor contracts. You absolutely need both of these sides to be considered fully closed out.
To build all of this into a structured, repeatable process, we use a work breakdown structure, or WBS, specifically designed for project termination. It acts as a great visual anchor here, proving that closing a project is honestly a mini project all in itself. Just look at how it breaks down the specific branches. You've got project organization, scope verification, contract administration, and even managing the physical site. It involves formal technical and financial audits, and literally things like returning equipment and shutting down the facility. It is a highly methodical breakdown of those final tasks.
Following that WBS, here's the chronological sequence you'll typically be following. Step 1 is getting that formal delivery acceptance right from the customer. Step 2 is shutting down those resources. Step 3, and this one is vital, reassigning your team members. Just imagine a team member who has given their all for a solid year, finally transitioning back to their functional department. This is the exact moment for formal recognition. In fact, the literature even strongly suggests writing formal attaboy or autogro letters. It's human resource management at its absolute best. And finally, Step 4, officially closing out those financial accounts.
Which brings us to Section 3, the post-implementation review, where we reflect on outcomes.
All right, now we're shifting gears from doing the work to reflecting on it. So what exactly is a PIR? Well, it's a systematic assessment to determine project relevance, effectiveness, impact, and sustainability,
all based on empirical evidence. This is the critical phase where we check if the project actually delivered its intended business results and value against those initial baselines. We aren't just asking, hey, did we build the thing? No, we're asking, did the thing we built actually solve the problem we originally set out to solve? Big difference there.
And to get those answers, we rely on rigorous tracking, kind of like these administrative closure and quality assurance checklists you see here. Notice the depth to these. These checklists ensure that we are systematically reviewing everything from budget exceptions and deliverable quality all the way to risk management resolution and action item tracking. It basically ensures that our post-project monitoring is just as structured and serious as our execution phase was.
Now, when you're conducting that final audit, these are the core questions drawn from government evaluation guidelines that should really guide your review. First, did the intervention actually work? What was the effect size relative to the actual cost? Were there any unintended impacts, either positive or negative? And ultimately, does this represent real value for money? What are the transferable lessons here? These questions right here are the ultimate litmus test for determining if your project was truly a success, or if it was, sadly, just a spent budget. Let's jump into Section 4, documenting key lessons learned, reframing our mistakes.
To really capture this project's value, we have to reframe our mistakes, and our successes, for that matter, as the ultimate currency for organizational growth. And to do this effectively, we need to understand the big difference between tacit and explicit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is all that unwritten experience, the gut intuition, and those brilliant insights locked inside a team member's head. The danger here is that when a project team disbands, all that tacit knowledge essentially just walks right out the door. So, our job during closure is absolutely crucial. We have to translate that tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge. We need to codify it into methods, registers, and databases so it is permanently available for any future project teams.
So how do we practically make that translation happen? First, you want to assign a lesson owner, someone who actively champions that specific takeaway. Next, document both the successes and the failures. Remember, no topic should be off limits here, but do keep the focus on processes, not people. You'll also want to utilize retrospective surveys to gather solid data. And finally, store all this in a formal lessons learned repository. A fantastic example from our sources is Boeing. They maintain actual diaries of lessons learned on every single airplane project, which is just a prime example of truly institutionalizing organizational memory. And that brings us to our final section, Section 5, Communicating Findings to Stakeholders, the final broadcast.
This right here is the final broadcast. How do we actually synthesize and deliver all these crucial findings? Well, the golden rule is you have to tailor the message. For instance, program managers might need a highly detailed presentation of the methodologies, the data analysis, and the limitations. But if you hand that same dense report to your project donors or executives, their eyes are going to glaze right over. They require a concise executive summary. Furthermore, your communication must be completely jargon-free. Because look, if people don't understand the results, those results are never going to impact future policies. It's as simple as that.
So, as you wrap up your studies for week 14, I really want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Will your project's legacy be a stepping stone for the future or just a forgotten file stuffed in the archive somewhere? I challenge you to view project closure not as the tedious end of a long road, but as the vital, empowering act of passing the torch of knowledge forward. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.